you ready to make technology work for you? Tune in to Act on Tech, the podcast where we break down the latest tech trends and show you how to boost your productivity at home and in your business. So, subscribe to Act on Tech today and visit alexcustomtech.com to see how we can take your business to the next level. That's Act on Tech, your guide to smarter tech for a smarter business. Alex Custom Tech, IT means integrity and trust.
Hi, welcome to Act on Tech, where we talk all things technology. I'm Alex of Alex Custom Tech, and today we're going to talk about, we're gonna get into something that's been floating around the news and online. And the conversation is router bans. So I'm gonna give you my 2 cents. And my 2 cents is years of experience and a understanding of what's going on and how it affects me and you and small businesses and even residential people. Okay, so we're gonna take this on, and I'm gonna give you my expertise on it, and you can either take it or leave it. You can go with the sensational news and the conspiracy theories and all this other stuff, or you can be grounded and just know the facts, right? And that's what I'm going to present you, a well-rounded concept of what's really going on. So when we talk about router bans, now depending on how you've heard it, and it might sound like something extreme, right? And like routers are just being banned from out of nowhere, or the government is doing some nefarious thing because the government is just always doing nefarious things. That's not exactly what's happening. If you hear that, that's not exactly what's happening. All right, it's more important, and it's not happening without a reason. So it's very important, and more important than the government being nefarious and some conspiracy, and it's not happening out of a vacuum. It's not happening without a reason. So let's define. We always try to define our terms, right? That's something that we do here. All right. So let's talk about, or let's break down what's going on. So we're going to talk about the FCC, right? And this is pertaining to the United States. So if you're listening to another country, you might have another variation of this department in your country, but in the US we have the FCC, and that's known as the Federal Communication Commission, right? And they maintain something called the covered list, right? And the covered list, this is a list of companies and technologies that are considered potential risk to national security. So I don't want to get too much into politics, but sovereign and boundaries or borders is a thing that countries has always have throughout history. Now we're kind of moving into this globalization thing, and the internet kind of makes that more viable or possible than ever before in history, right? But there is some unintended consequences for that. Like, how my belief is, I have a tragic view of the world, and I don't think there is any solution. There's only trade-offs. So globalization, if it should happen the way some people would want it, there's going to be a trade-off. And the trade-off is going to be culture. And what I think is important, you might not be thinking is important, and that's kind of a clash. Now, I'm going off on a tangent, but there is borders and sovereignty, and the U.S. federal government, based on its constitution and how it sees liberty and the American dream, if you will, or the American ideals, it wants to protect that. Plus, of course, there's the government, and then there's secrets, and then there's information, and then there's all this other stuff. And company and other countries would like to have advantage over America, or or learn its trade secrets, whether it be government or private entities and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of things that a country can get by doing espionage, right? So recent certain foreign-made networking equipment, right, including routers, have come under some security situations. That includes companies like Huawei and ZTE. These are Chinese companies, right? And you know about America and China, their little ideological differences, right? So, and to give you a roundabout way about explaining why there's even an issue, it's not just that it's a communist country and it's a capitalist country. It's not just that. It's way more than that. It's one superpower trying to maintain its place, and another country trying to surpass it. And that's what the challenge really, at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? So, that being said, so here's what I want to make very clear about this thing. The decision was not made randomly, right? So like all this ban routers, right? And this is tied to real world concerns. So it's not like they just decide, oh, I don't like China, so I'm going to do this. And it's not a partisan thing either. It's not like, oh, one Donald Trump and the Republicans and the conservatives are doing it. I mean, this happened even under the last administration, and these concerns have always been kind of like circling the drain with different administrations in America. So this is not like one party thing. This is a bipartisan approach, because I don't know if you remember the whole thing behind, I forgot what company, it was a social media company that the American Congress entirely was concerned about. It wasn't just one side, it was both. So there's some concerns there, right? So it wasn't just made out of thin air. All right. So that being said, why this is happening and the real reason, right? So it isn't just politics, like I said. This is just a security thing. So there have been some documented concern, like things that have happened. I'm going to tell you about them over the years about network equipment being used as a potential access point to unauthorized remote access, data interception, and surveillance and espionage. So how does that work? So let's talk about routers for a minute and what a router really is. I think I may have gone over this before. So there's a couple of names for them. So there's routers and then there's firewalls. Kind of the same thing, right? So your router sits at what we know as the demarcation of your network. So your ISP gives you access to the internet, and it goes into your modem. They give you a modem, and your modem is plugged into your router. So your router is what lets your devices on your network leave your network, which is your intranet, to go to the internet. And it routes the traffic, because some traffic needs to go outside of your house and some traffic needs to go on the house, outside of your network or outside of your LAN, and some traffic needs to stay within your LAN. So like for instance, say you're on your computer and you want to print a document and your printer is inside your business, inside the building. When that information or data hits the router, and it will just say, oh, the printer is on this port, or the printer is over here, and it would send it to the printer. But when you say, I want to go to Google, or I want to go to my cloud, it's going to go hit the router, and it's going to go to your cloud outside of your LAN. And say you make a phone call. If you make a phone call, it's going to hit the router, right? And it's going to go out of your router and then to the internet. Now, say something is running on that router, and it's known as firmware. It's built into your router, it's part of your router, and it has a back door, because the manufacturer put one in there so he can capture packets that's going through the router, so you can look at it later, right? If he has that capability and it's built into the router, you don't know about it, I don't know about it. That's how you get your espionage. That's how you get your remote control. That's how you get your surveillance. And that's what the problem is. So if a country, i.e. China, where the liberties are a little bit different than here, where everything is kind of tied to the state can say, yeah, you can make these routers, but you have to put X, Y, and Z into it. Okay, that's what the problem is. You can't, and so it's not a matter of. And here's why I can say this is because this has been documented. This has happened. Okay, so now you understand the story. So everything passes through the router, like I explained. Email, client data, VoIP calls, remote connection, right? All those go through your router. If the router is compromised, even at the firmware level, which is what we're talking about, it becomes a silent doorway into everything that you're doing in your LAN. So say you're a lawyer, and even government facilities, government defense agencies use these routers. Remember we talked about before when I talked about not just getting a router from your ISP, you should try to get a prosumer router. Some of these companies that I just list make prosumer routers, so people use them, right, in their business. So now you get an idea of what we're talking about. So there have been cases, like I said, of when vulnerabilities and questionable software behavior raises concern that certain device could be exploited, right, or worse, intentionally designed in a way to allow the backdoor behavior, backdoor access, right? Now, to be reasonable here, right, that doesn't mean that every device is spying on you. I don't want you to get panicky now, but it does mean that there's a risk, a real world risk, about certain companies from certain places could have these devices, and the risk of that happening is too great, if that's a thing. So, and in some cases, historically, like I said, agencies had to take action. So when they say agency to take action, there are documented cases where this was going on in government agencies, in small businesses, where the government had to get a subpoena. They have to get a subpoena because that's how our country is. That's how America is. You can't just go into people's private property and just like do stuff because you see a risk. You have to actually get permission to do so. So you have to get a subpoena from the court, then go into someone's router and take over that router or shut that router down. But they'll let you know that they're doing it, and then they'll replace the router, right? But it hasn't happened all across the board. It's just a couple of documented cases, and trust me, these things were also targeted to these people for particular reasons, and the government had to step in. So given the fact that they know this has happened and it's a well documented thing, they say, okay, let's just do this thing instead. So the FCC came up with this approach to eliminate the problem going forward or reduce it, right? Because people are still going to find some other way to get routers that they shouldn't have, right? So again, it isn't coming out of thin air, right? I want you guys to understand that, right? So what the ban actually means. So what is the ban really? So now we tell you why they're doing the ban. So what really is the ban? Well, the government is shutting off, shutting off your router or forcing replacement overnight for reason of panic is not true. Okay, that is not what's happening. I'm going to repeat myself. The government shutting off your router, or the government forcing a replacement, or the government overreacting, or making this because they're panicking is not true. It's absolutely not true. It's not true at all. What it is though is restriction on new equipment up and and an approval process have to take place in for the future sales of routers, right? A long-term move or fears out of these risky routers, right? A shift towards more trusted industry. So this is not even about, US companies are not even like that, because other countries that make routers, as long as they follow the rules set by the FCC, they'll be fine. And even if China, the one that Huawei is from, like, right, or TP-Link, right, even if they decide to follow the FCC rules, their router would be back into the country. So it's not like there's just rules now, not you just do whatever you want and we trust you. We're going to say, okay, trust but verify. So let's just have these standards, and then when you build your routers to these standards, then we'll let you in. You can sell in the US, and that's what it really is at the end of the day, right? Why would that be a problem for anybody? I don't know, but again, that's what it is. So what it does to, or what it does not mean. Let's see. What it does not mean. It doesn't mean that. Let's clear this up, really, because this is where people get like nervous, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, because these are like this kind of topics, because it kind of clear the fog in a sense, where I shine some light on things. Because I like, with the tech community, you got extreme on both sides. You got like the extreme, open source people. That's why I use pfSense. And you have, people who like, the government is overreacting, and you can trust China and all this other stuff. Like, you need to have like a middle where you can really look at what's going on. Again, and this, not to go off topic, but everything isn't a conspiracy, and everybody isn't out to get you, and you know what I'm saying? So it's more nuanced than that, right? So your current router will still work, and you don't have to do anything with your current router, right? To be honest with you really don't. And because the people who were targeted, like the defense and other people, they kind of got that all sorted out now, right? But going forward, they want to put these things in place. So your current router is fine, but I'm still gonna challenge you in some way with the current routers you have, right? So you're not required to replace anything immediately, right? Definitely you're not, okay? And your business is not in danger of becoming some kind of, policy or anything like that, or being restricted in any way or anything like that. But it does mean you should not ignore it either, right? So this is information that you can get, and okay, let me make some changes, or let me do some inventory, and let me check on some things so that I can be prepared, or get ready to be prepared. So why does this matter for small businesses? And why does it matter to me? And before I even go into why it doesn't matter for small business, let me kind of explain to you my setup. So I use, for my clients, I use two brand routers that I use. I use TP-Link and I use Unify. So let's talk about the gateway. So Unify is a dream machine, which is my favorite router. And there's also TP-Link, which is in my house. TP-Link is one of the routers that is in this questionable gray area, right? But not that TP-Link is a bad company. The routers are great, but again, because they're from this particular place, they're under scrutiny. Now, TP-Link is not, it's not like we're targeting TP-Link or we're targeting Huawei, we're targeting the other company. It's just that we have this standard that now TP-Link and these other companies have to meet. So if you have a TP-Link router from before, you don't really have to get rid of it. It's fine. But going forward, you won't be able to get a TP-Link unless they meet these standards. Now, if you have a TP-Link and you're a little bit uncomfortable, right? Or if you don't know what you have, you want to go looking way up. But before I even do that, so my house, which I do most of my work out of, has a TP-Link as the firewall, right? And I checked into it. It's fine. Nothing is wrong with it. But it's coming up to that 4 to 5 year time where I need to replace it anyway. So it's going to be replaced with a Dream Machine. And because I have a hybrid kind of a network here where I have the router is a TP-Link, but all the access points and all this other stuff are unified equipment. So I was going to do it regardless, but it would make sense just to get the Dream Machine also and just like round out everything with the same brand. And so I say that to say this, like, so I use these routers that was in question too. I'm MSP to tell you like, oh, I never use this. They're lying. Okay, we never knew about this stuff until of late. Some people knew about it, but I mean, everybody didn't know about it. And I heard rumblings about it last year about TP-Link, but I never really worried about it too much because I knew that I knew about the court orders and the subpoenas and that sort of stuff. So I'm like, okay, people who are having issues they're gonna be notified, right? So that being said, you get all that out the way. Why does it matter for small business? So here's what I want you to pay attention to, kind of like what I just did. Because of the ban itself, but not because of the ban itself, but because of what it reveals. See? Not because of the ban, what it reveals. The security question, right? The firmware question, right? Let's not do things where we put routers or firewalls into our houses or small business or whatever and just leave it there and forget about it, right? Because again, everything goes through the router. So using whatever the ISP gave you, which I talked to you guys about this from before, definitely not a good idea, right? And never check firmware. I mean, never check firmware updates. Like, we just have a router, it's supposed to be updated, but we don't update it. That's a problem, right? And don't even know what the model is that's running in your network. So people have internet in business. I come across this in business a lot when I say, hey, so what equipment you're running? I don't know. You want to take inventory of what you have. What are the brands? What's your firewall? What's your modem? What's your switch? Know what's in there, because it might be outdated. It might have a vulnerability that we don't know about. If I don't know the model or the name, or I don't know. I have to go inside the closet and see. And I've come across some really old stuff, right? And again, nothing is wrong with old stuff either in certain environment. Again, I do some things with libraries, and I've told you this before. There are libraries that run Windows XP. Literally, like, it's running Windows XP, and the reason why is because the software that catalyze and inventory the books that runs on XP that the library just doesn't want to get rid of. But here's the beautiful thing about it: it's not on the internet, so no one can get to it. That's how you use old equipment. I have a lab. Now let's switch a hub in my lab. Nobody can get to the hub, so it's fine. It's not connected to the internet, and this is how you navigate that. So some business, some industries can get away with that, right? And if for instance, if the router is not connected to the internet, but it's still routing traffic within the LAN, then it's not a problem. Okay. That being said, so that's the real issue, if I'm going to be honest with you. So because there's vulnerability, right? And we're always going to have vulnerabilities, and we're always going to have that kind of stuff, and this is how we have to deal with it. Not that it's reactionary, but you want to okay, that's a vulnerability. Let me plan accordingly. Okay? You won't know. Right? You won't know if it's a vulnerability. You won't know if you have that kind of mindset where you set it and leave it, you take what the ISP gives you, you never check the firmware, you don't even know what the model you have. If that's how you're functioning, you're gonna be vulnerable, and you're never gonna know what's going on. Okay, so what I want you to take away from this podcast, right? And if it's a long podcast, I'm gonna leave it because I think this is an important topic. So here's what I want to recommend, simply and practically. That's my approach. How I'm approaching it now, and how I want you guys to approach it, or if you have an MSP, or if you call us. So this is how we're gonna approach it. So know what router you're using. First of all, key one: know what router you're using. Go look now, see what you have as a router or a gateway in your network. 2, make sure it's still getting security updates, right? If this is 10 years ago, you need to change it, right? Avoid unknown and unsupported brands. So some router with this name you can't recognize or nobody know about it, you're gonna buy it because it's cheap. No, don't do that. That's a no. Get recommended brand or popular brands routers, right? Going forward. Now, plan to upgrade, which is what I'm doing. Plan to upgrade your network equipment every 3 to 5 years. I'll go to 5 years, right? But every 3 to 5 years. If you do this, 4 things, now you will be fine. This will not be an issue. Okay. All right. Start thinking about your network like an infrastructure, which is how I think about everything. But start thinking about it now, and not just internet access. So you want to think about it. Don't think about, can I get to Google? Can I get to TikTok? Can I get to whatever? Think about the internet, but also think about the LAN part of it. What's going on in the network? What is in your network? What is on your LAN? Is there a printer on your LAN? Is there how many computers are on your LAN? And then think about what you're sending through your router. Are you making phone calls that are going through your router? Are you sending a lot of emails all the time through your router? That's what I'm talking about. Have an idea of what's going on. Or if you don't want to think about it, by all means, call us and we'll do it. Right? That's why you need an MSP. Right? I'm still trying to get used to telling you about Alex Custom Tech, so you can call me to have me do it. But if it's not me, get an MSP. Right? Small business owners, get an MSP. This is a prime example of what I'm talking about. Get an MSP. They'll figure this out for you. Right? You don't want to be in a situation where that's happening, right? So get an MSP, right? Have them look in the closet to see what's in there. Have them look in the closet because they'll know. I know by looking in the closet, I'll run tests, I'll run research on equipment and be like, oh, I gotta pull this out right now because this is vulnerable, or that's vulnerable, or this has a potential. MSP, that's what we do. So, in closing, this isn't a panic thing. This is a awareness thing. And the government didn't just wake up and say, hey, let's decide to ban routers because we don't like China. That's not what's happening, right? It might happen in other things, but not this. And this comes from real world security issues and real world security concerns. Like I said, there's been documented things with subpoenas and all that stuff that did happen. All right, and real world scenarios where network equipment can be used in ways people shouldn't be using it. Right? I mean, so your job is not to panic. Just do what I said, the 4 things that I said, and you should be fine. And just be aware. And if you don't want to do it yourself, you can call an MSP, call us or somebody like us, and we'll come in here and do it. Okay? So like I always say, stay productive.
You've been listening to Act on Tech, powered by Alex Custom Tech. We help small businesses take control of their technology with secure networks, reliable backups, and systems designed to run without interruption. No guesswork, No quick fixes, just IT that works the way it should. For business services and professional camera installations, visit alexcustomtech.com. Stay connected, stay secure, and stay in control. This is Abby from Polyvinyl 97 FM saying thank you for listening to Act on Tech, and we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place.